Yes.
Do different things in those games.
All right. So now we know who the real PvP is, who the PvP king is, don't we?
Now you say that, but you know.
Say that, but what?
No.
Some people were asking. Somebody just asked, "What YouTube channel is that on?" I have a YouTube channel now.
Yay!
There you
It's called Helsing Gaming, and you should go click the subscribe button. I will put a link in chat so everybody can go subscribe and follow me. I want a million followers by the end of the day.
Join the Helsing Army, everybody.
Yeah.
Oh, and I just want to point out this right here is because of Delman, because he wants to poke fun at me the whole show. Now I'm going to poke fun at you guys. But it's all good, man. We're just going to be chillaxing, you know? It's the second half. It's after hours. Let's start this discussion back up.
Did you unbutton your top shirt? Did you?
No, it was always like that. No,
Wondering if you were pulling off the Miami look.
I think Flatus is closer to Miami than I am, but yeah, he is. I am.
This is a true fact.
Welcome to Miami. Bienvenidos a Miami. Anyways, so you guys left off. You wanted to talk about instance PvP next, right?
Yeah, and there was a bit of a disagreement. I think I'm the only person that's like, no, I really don't care about Battlegrounds and Arena. I've seen that in so many other MMOs. I think that they're incredibly hard to get right, and I just don't really... I'm not going to... It's going to be the one game that if I'm playing EverQuest next, I probably won't do any of the instance PvP that's there.
Well, the thing is, instance... And again, I'm not a PvPer myself, but going back to the Old Republic for a second, Hutball was a really unique, original idea for PvP, and people really seemed to like it. And
but that wasn't Star Wars.
No, you're absolutely right. It was just a unique PvP game mode. You can't do that in open world. You can't provide that kind of game, tightly unique kind of gameplay in just open world. But I take it you're not interested in that.
No, I'm all for it. Like I've done PvP in every single MMO that I've ever played in, and I mean, unless it's incredibly mind-blowingly different and cool and good, it's like you can't make it. I don't know. I just don't see how it's going to be interesting. I think that's what I said. Like,
well, here's the deal. Let me put it this way. The thing that bothers me about instance PvP, and maybe it's the same as you, Tamlin, is the fact that first you have that separate PvP gear and progression that you're grinding for, so you're constantly queuing up. And the second is the fact that you're constantly queuing up and that it takes people out of the world. So world PvP usually dies when instant PvP happens because it's easier to get a fight going, things like that. But what if you took kind of the reward out of instance PvP? What if it's like, if you choose to join the match, it's just because you want to do it? What if there's really nothing you can gain from it? Then it might not become such a Q fest. Then it might not take away from the world as much, right? Or would it? I don't know. It might still.
And see, and then there's that other thing, is the other reason that people do instance PvP is to see how good they are, right? Like you have your ranking system and that you can go up in ranking and go down in ranking. And after years of PvP, I know how good I am. I'm not a PvP king. I'm average. And I don't need another game to tell me I'm average in PvP, because it's just like every other game that's out there. It's like there's not going to be anything in EQ Next that suddenly makes me a great PvPer. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with being average. And that's why I'm like, unless there's something new, I don't need to challenge myself for the gear. I don't need to challenge myself to see how good I am, because I know. And so what's going to drive people into EQ Next that separates it from anything that people have seen before in the past?
I'll tell you. I said it earlier. No, it's emergent dungeons. It's emergent PvP arenas. It's the fact that just like in Landmark, I can build a claim up. Well, maybe in EQN, I can go into my own private instance, and boom, there's the same thing in Landmark. Or maybe I can import my build from Landmark into a PvP arena in EQN. That's what makes a difference, because then you're playing all different kinds of game modes, all different kinds of settings. It does change the game a little bit.
Well, here's the thing I think you guys are forgetting, and there is a segment of players, and, obviously I think we are all hardcore about our MMOs to some degree, whether you're a PvE player like me or whether you're a PvP player. We're all pretty deeply invested. There are people who aren't, or are casual, or work 70 hours a week. There are people who, I have 2 hours to play on Sunday, and that's it. And that's where things like Group Finder and PvP queues have grown, is because of players like that need that kind of thing. Now, with that said, I've heard all the horror stories about pickup groups. We all know about pickup groups versus running with people you know.
Yes, the puggers.
But there are players who, if they don't have that option to them, they will never play that part of the game. That's why I think you will have some instance PvP.
This is where I was going to go with it. I think that they need to figure out the best of both worlds.
Mm-hmm.
Because they need to figure out how they can take instance PvP and bring it into the main world. And that way it's not something where you just click and you're like, I'm going to wait here till this pops.
Again, real quick, and then I know Tobler wants to jump in here.
Yes.
Star Wars Galaxies, that's what they had their open world, flag yourself, you can run around, try and find anyone who's flagged for PvP, but that's what Restus was all about. It was an area of game where it was, this whole section, you step foot in here, you're PvP. Anything goes in this, and there were objectives and mini games and nonsense like that for you to go pursue. But that is where the PvPers, when they wanted their PvP, would go congregate. They would go to Restus and go and try and pick fights with each other. Maybe because I'm seeing a lot of what they learned doing Star Wars Galaxies being applied right now in Landmark and during alpha test. The end element of crafting with the experimentation, that is completely lifted from the last step of crafting from Star Wars Galaxies. This idea of the multi-classing, you can pick the classes and get all the skills.
Just switch it forever.
That, again, Star Wars Galaxies, and this is my concern about that. The reason they ultimately took that away was because it was a nightmare to balance. They were playing whack-a-mole.
Exactly what I was going to say.
They were playing whack-a-mole with the flavor of the
discussion,
month.
right.
They were playing whack-a-mole constantly.
And
And
Rift is the same thing. Rift does that too. There's always a flavor of the month. But actually, no, I can't even say that's really been fixed, because Rift PvP has had that problem since the begining. They've tried multiple times to redo PvP because of it, but because of the nearly endless combinations of changing abilities.
Players, the collective hive mind of players will always find the most effective build humanly possible.
That's why you need to limit it. That's why in Rift, as you go up that skill tree, I have scissors in my hand. Sorry, I don't know why. As you go up that skill tree, the abilities get progressively better. They actually do more damage and things like that. See, this is where EQing can go different. EQing already has different ways to limit it to where this ability uses more power, so you can't really stack these together very well. They can kind of see what's the flavor of the month, and they can adjust those variables to make it so it's not advantageous to just sit there and play a certain way, to try new combinations. And they can also do so because those abilities might not necessarily gain you just more damage. They'll just change the way you play. Now, I know this is all theoretical, fun, but we don't know if it's really possible yet. We don't know. They might have the same problem that every other game's had.
Diggs is making a really good point here. In a broadest sense, he's talking about RPGs really aren't about PvP. That's the problem. The core of RPG is cooperative PvE. He's kind of right. The real hardcore players that are all about, I want to prove my skills better than yours, they're all playing Call of Duty. They're all playing League of Legends. They're all playing those really hardcore competitive games. And I don't mean this as an insult, but when it comes to PvP in MMO, it is, I want to be a big fish in a little pond. There's a different kind of mindset.
You want a big world.
Yeah, so I don't know. It's tough. PvP is generally an element of a game I ignore for the most part. it doesn't mean anything to me. You know what I mean? Like, again, I was the person whose first class mastered in Star Wars Galaxies was Entertainer. You know?
Yeah. See, I don't know about the whole. Yeah, maybe RPG at the foundation of it was player versus environment. I don't think that's a relevant thing to say anymore because we've seen MMOs become such a very diverse group of games
Absolutely.
that it doesn't all come from one area anymore. So the future.
D&D has always been not PvP or PvE. It's always been player versus the dungeon master.
That's true.
True.
Which is player versus player, isn't it?
Yes and no.
Technically, kind of.
No, because the dungeon master has to follow the rules, and like creatures have a set base, and everything. He creates the story, and he walks you through that story. But all he is just a narrator. He plays all he does is play characters. So you're really playing against the characters. He's just rolling the dice and moving those characters. So it's versus PvE.
Alright, Coburn. Let's grab Coburn in on this.
Yes.
Right, this is like so off topic now because we went from how do we bring open world PvP from instances to Star Wars Galaxies stuff. So moving back, you wanted to bring open world instance PvP into the open world.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Make arenas public. Let people see
I was about to say the same thing.
Let them bet.
Yep.
Let them, jump in. Let them throw things. Give morale.
Instead of going to Twitch TV to watch a game, go to the arena and watch the game.
I have some interesting ways they can do that. One, you can have a tournament ground where people go and actually play like tourney games. Like they can go and battle in a pit, and people can actually watch if they want.
Yeah.
And that's open, and you can queue for it, and there's leaderboards right outside, and people can go watch you PvP. And then and that way now you have a way for people that like watching PvP in game can do that. People that like to PvP can do that, and it makes it interesting. And we know SOE likes to try to add Twitch, streaming into there. That makes it interesting. Now you have people in game that can kind of like cheer you on and go watch you PvP, and it's a tournament ground, and you can now, So now that's a different way of looking at it. Instead of going like I'm going to sit in city, now I have to travel to the tournament grounds to go do things.
Sure.
And you can do that, and you can do that. You can have a different game ground for everything, or you can have like, what is it? In Warcraft they had Wintergrasp, and Wintergrasp was a huge PvP area that was in the world. The games were had there. You had a PvP based area. You can do that. You have to look at it.
But is that so? When you're talking about those battlegrounds, is that balanced around 1v1 or is that balanced around 3v3?
You can do 3v3. You can do whatever.
Yeah, it depends how big you want to make it.
Well, see, and that's what we were talking about earlier. Is that balancing open world where there's no rules and there's no like set structure to it. You don't have to balance it at all. You just let the characters play and do whatever they're going to do. As soon as you start creating those areas, then you're going to have to be like, oh, hey, well, are we balancing it around 3v3? Because and I really dislike that.
That's if it's stat based, but if it's based on the weapons, and the weapons just alternate like something like, oh, you get an extra stun instead of like, oh, you do 20% more damage, then you don't have to worry about it because everyone's at the same base level. You're just worrying about does this guy have a little more flair than I do?
No, but then also. It's about because like when you get into really competitive PvP, it becomes more about like getting your crowd control off, getting a clutch heal off, managing your abilities in such a way that you're able to like, it's not just a 1v1 because when you get to like 3v3, there's a meta game. There is like, what is our strategy? Is our strategy to like CC the healer and kill this target? And those sort of things, like, it's where you start getting away from being this open world role playing game in EverQuest Next, and you get into being a parlor game where you're queuing up and you're fixing your strategy. And again, I love PvP. I just don't know if that's necessarily I want to do in EQ Next because I've seen it done.
How is that different to a raid or a dungeon?
It's not because
it's not.
It's
okay. Well, here
because
Flatus, go ahead.
I was gonna say then it's gonna be based off the AI, because if the AI works, then it's now it's not the boss at 20% does this. Now the boss it doesn't matter what the boss does at whatever percentage, because he's gonna should theoretically, if I'm taking more damage from the side, I'm going to turn around and do my strongest attack on that guy and just try to kill him because it's not at 20%.
You're
it's
right.
just
That
going
does
to
affect things.
And
So here's the
to
deal.
answer
No,
that
I
question,
think-
like how it differs from a raid, how it differs from PvP or as it a raid, they said very specifically that the instance PvP that they want to see in the game is when they're going to use it as a tool when they need to tell a part of the story or part of the narrative.
Yeah, absolutely.
That doesn't happen in PvP unless you're going to do like Warsong Gulch or the stupid battlegrounds in Warcraft that have been around that might have had a story 8 years ago, but currently they mean nothing. They're just something that you queue for.
Okay, here's what I'm going to say. I'm going to say that that's the problem with MMOs, is the fact that the technology was not around during the time to do things in a big open world on the scale that you guys want. An MMO is supposed to be a big open world. It's supposed to be a narrative. That's what the genre is supposed to be defined as. But the problem is it wasn't readily available. They had to rely on these older kind of games, these different games. Like, a MOBA should never kind of compete with an MMO. The arenas that we see in MMOs, to me, shouldn't be in MMOs anyways. Those should be different games, because it's not an MMO when it comes down to it. That's a 3v3 game. That's like a MOBA. That's a Smite. But the possibilities that change with EQ Next is that the technology's starting to get there to where we don't need these instances. We can have it in the open world. We can have bigger battles. We can have narratives that are controlled by the AI, that are controlled by the other players, and we can live in a breathing world. At least that's the hope, right? So I don't really know if you need to worry about balance on an arena level like that. Maybe that's just fluff that's added. I will say that you cannot force any kind of esports. WoW tried for a while. It took forever to take off. It failed in the beginning. PlanetSide 2 tried forever with MLG to get esports off the ground, but it did not take off until the community made it take off. If PlanetSide 2 can do like 240 versus 240 battles and esports it out based on a community, that's the future of MMO PvP. That's where we're going. When we can all go online and compete on these big scales, where it doesn't have to be controlled by some stupid little mechanic.
I'll say this right now. I don't think any company should go into PvP saying, well, how can we monetize it and make it an esport and make it popular? Because if that's your first idea, get the hell out. You shouldn't be making MMOs anymore.
Absolutely.
Get out.
I'm just saying that
Get
balance
out.
doesn't really matter on that small scale if that's not your main design decision. If you're not trying to make that little arena game, why are you doing it at all? Just have it as a fun fluff factor.
I generally, again, I think it comes down to there is a portion of the player base they have to serve who has a limited time frame to do the things they want to do in game. They can't play 40 hours a week. They can play for 4 hours a week. They can play for 2 hours a week. So I hear you guys, but yeah, I'm sure that Next is going to have some form of instanced arena combat because they have to serve those players to some degree.
Yeah, they have to. And like I said, one way to work with it is like have tournament grounds, something that's written in the story. The king wants games. What medieval fantasy realm doesn't have tournaments? That's a great way to do it. And you can still have people that rank higher than other people, and then you can do it so it's like, oh, well, the top player gets their banister or their flag hung outside, and like, dude, that's the guy. Look at him. Look at his banister wave out there. And he gets crowned, and maybe he gets a date with the lady, whatever. or man, depending if you're a female character, they can change it up. You get a date with the prince or the princess.
Let me ask this. When you played your first MMO, all of you, I want to hear from all of you on this point. What was it about the game that made you decide to try it, whatever the game was?
Friends.
Okay.
Hands down.
What?
Spit it out,
Wow.
guys.
I thought Tanlin was going to go further.
You're wearing the Dunce cap now.
Oh, I'm sorry. No. I think I've said it before. Is that I avoided MMOs because I had a very active life. I went through a bad breakup. I was living on my own in a studio apartment, and my job moved me to graveyard shift. I had nothing going on with my life, and my coworkers were playing an MMO, and they were like, "Okay, Vanguard is just about to launch. Play Vanguard with us." And I'm like, "All right." Sounds cool.
And it sucked you in. How about you, Tobin? How did you get into MMOs, and what was it that drew you to it?
My first MMO was RuneScape, so this is
okay.
Pretty newer, but I tried it just because it's a free game and I want something to play.
Okay.
And then eventually I found it intoxicating because, you play the lower levels, you see, oh, I can play with other people, this is kind of cool. But it wasn't until I hit like a higher level I could PvP and just jump outside kill a few players and be like, good game, well played, whatever. And
So
then,
PvP really appealed to you really early
PvP
on.
was like the thing for me. I didn't think it was
Gotcha.
going to be, but ended up being. So.
How about you, Flatus? What was your first MMO and what drew you to it?
My first MMO was World of Warcraft. It was WoW. And
did you say World of War crap? Wow.
Crap. No, crap. And what drew me to it was I've always been a big fan of like Dungeons and Dragons and RPGs in general. Final Fantasy 6 and 7 being one of my top 2 favorite JRPGs. So when going into WoW, I had some friends that were like, "Oh, go try it out." They never told me to join their server. They just said, "Oh, go try it out." And I was always a big Blizzard fan, StarCraft and Warcraft, the original Warcraft games, and Diablo, and they always did great stories. So I went and tried it out. And I think that the best thing for me was getting lost in the world and finding my niche in the story and how me as a player played through that world and getting lost. Like that first, and I think when I say this, I think that most people agree. Is like you always. I think a lot of us jump from MMO to MMO looking for that kind of like that first high you get from your first MMO, where you get lost in the world and you're like have no idea what's going on, but you get stuck in playing for 8 hours because you feel like you're involved in doing things. Like I killed 27 bears. That's for something. I did something with those bears. Yeah. So
how about you, Chad? What was your first MMO and what was it that drew you to it?
Yeah. No, it's very similar. I guess I was an RPG player through and through when I started. I mean, I didn't play board games or anything, so I'm not hardcore, I guess, as Tanner will put it. But no, EverQuest. Look at him. EverQuest was my first MMO, and what drew me in and what got me addicted and what made me keep seeking that pleasureful drug over and over again over the years was the narrative immersion. It was the fact that I could transcend myself and become something in a bigger world, and to a point that I didn't feel in any single player game because of the multiplayer interaction. I was able to join a Dark Elf roleplay guild. I was able to immerse myself bigger than I've ever done before in a fantasy world. And you do get that same experience from board games. It's just I didn't have friends who liked that kind of stuff. So in the online realm, it's a lot easier to find people who interest you because you can just log into that game from wherever you are, and that's what kept me with MMOs is the narrative, it's the story, and it's the immersion.
Yeah. So similar to Tamlin, I had gone through a breakup, had some free time on my hands. I had dabbled with EverQuest Online Adventures, obviously not the most optimal way to try EverQuest, but I was fascinated by the idea of this really wide open world. Like, you see that mountain over there? You can go run up to the top of that mountain and there'll be stuff to find. And I thought that was a very neat idea. And then I was told, they're making the Star Wars one, right? And I was like, really? Little did I know that 2 years of my life would go by like that. And I I was going to unlock Jedi no matter what, but it was the same thing. It's that wow, I'm a part of this world. And for me being a lifelong Star Wars fan, I knew the universe already. It wasn't me having to learn the world, to learn to speak the vocabulary like you do with the, like if you're going to jump into WoW, you have to,
I learned Dark Elf language. Like my RP guild only spoke in a made-up language, so I'm with you.
SOE and EverQuest 2, like I'm still way in over my head lore-wise. Like I'm still like, who did what to the what? Where? Huh? But with the Star Wars, I was able to, and it was that running around, exploring, and getting lost in the world that I love so much about MMOs. So PvP was always a nuisance to me. Was always like, God damn it, why do these people keep doing this crap to me? I don't care, So, I'm like, arena's cool. I don't care. Yeah. Whatever.
But it's a different kind of game. It is a different kind of game because when I go into an arena game, it's the opposite feeling I'm looking for when I play the normal MMO game. Right. Same reason why I play an FPS. It's a different experience I'm looking for. And yeah, it's cool that it's all in one game, I suppose. But it's just you have to make sacrifices. When you decide to go for that arena-style game, the rest of the game suffers. If you decide to not start off with PvP as a fundamental goal for your game, PvP never takes off. Look at EverQuest 1, EverQuest 2. They designed that as PvE. But then they tried to add on PvP. Of course PvP never took off because it wasn't designed from the beginning to be as such. So I do want big open world PvP when it comes to EverQuest Next. I do want players to be able to create their own factions and their own cities and fight.
Are you opposed to the idea of being able to flag on and off for PvP? Like, instead of there being a PvP server, would you be cool with, we have a flagging system. When you want a PvP, you flip the switch.
I'd be okay with that on a PvE server. So if I'm on, just like dueling in EQ1, you know, if I'm on a PvE server, I should have an option to be able to PvP if I want to flag it. But if I want the true experience where I'm not just afraid of the environment, but the same player next to me, you know, where I have to trust another individual over the internet, which is hard to do, or just decide to kill them right out and run away, I like that experience too. So I'd want both options. But flaggables, definitely on a PvE only server, not on the PvP. If it's PvP, it's PvP through and through. Maybe town safe, maybe. I'd even like to see towns as a way to get ganked. I don't know. No, you'd like towns to be safe?
No, if it's a PvP server, I don't think they're. I mean,
yeah, no safe zones. I mean, but you have to encourage players to work together. It's that we've had this kind of debate thinking about H1Z1, Tanlin and I. Like, how do you get players to cooperate and not just be a 24/7 gank fest?
And that's where, like, when we're talking about the PvP server, one of the things that, like, I can't make an educated opinion on is because we have no idea how factions are going to work in the game. So, like, before it was going to be like PvP, you know, team A and team B, if it's going to be open world, like, what is going to be, like, how do we decide? Is it just going to be guild 1 versus guild 2? Because then if it's like that, then no town safe zones. But if there are actually going to be, like, factions that you will belong to, then I can understand being like, no, if you're part of this faction and this is your capital city, you can go there and be safe. It's a no contest zone. But we'll have to see because we don't really know much about factions so far.
Yeah, and I think I was gonna say that's something to point out too. Like, you know, we've been told, like, oh, everyone starts off in the same area, working towards the same goal. So the question is, are there factions? Are there two separate camps? Is there an evil? No. So the question is then, you know, if people go down a path of being evil, and then other people go down a path of doing the righteous, you could have a very unbalanced group, because what if no one ever goes down the path of being evil? How does PvP work then? How do you...
Oh, you'll have no problem with players going down the path of evil.
Even if they don't go down, they can still kill each other.
It'll be rare to see people trying to strive to be a hero. That's the rarity in these games. I was so heartbroken when Old Republic came out and everybody and their cousins like, we gotta be Sith. I'm like, what's wrong with you people?
And
Star Wars experience.
And if I didn't make it clear, that right there is the reason why I think it's important for factions to have safe zones, because if there's a server with a massive population imbalance, if the enemy players can't go to a place that they feel safe, they won't play on that server, and it'll go to like 90% in favor of another faction.
True.
So again, that's one of those interesting things about having a PvP server, especially if there's any sort of faction warfare, is to try and keep those factions balanced population wise, because otherwise one faction just overwhelms the other one and no one plays on it.
Well, that's what happened in EverQuest 2. Was they started off with factions where you know if you were Dark Elf, you couldn't play with the Fae. Now you can all play together.
Yeah, you pretty much
can't go to each other's starter cities, but once you're out of your starter city, you can all still adventure together. It doesn't matter. I think
you can even sneak into each other's starter cities.
This is true. This is true. There are the whole betrayer system, and there's other ways to get around that. But in the end, it came down to, we got to stop making it difficult for players to get together to do the group stuff together, is why they ultimately went that way. So I suspect that we're not going to have those factions in the beginning. You know, I mean, I haven't had a chance to read any of the ebooks yet. Have any of you guys yet? Are you guys all caught up on those?
We're all not caught up.
So they are rebooting the mythology. It's basically a retelling of the things they've done, because it's funny, because I know the Combine that they're talking about that we're ultimately going to be is going on right now in EverQuest 2. You know, but it's something they're talking about.
It's a different Combine, but it is. You're right. No,
but the idea
there's a lot of lore that kind of
exactly. They're jumbling it up and they're moving things around. So I that's what's going on in EverQuest 2 right now. Is the dragons are returning, and so everybody's grouping together against that. And I suspect that's where EverQuest Next will first start. That's
I'd like to
why we're all gonna be
re-amend
safe.
my statement when I said factions, because there's a
Yeah.
negative connotation when it comes to factions, and that's like you're either good or evil, and if you're good, you don't fight other good people. When I think of factions, I think of EQ1 factions. I think of many, many, many different factions working together one time,
Right.
maybe fighting each other at the other time. I want to see players control that experience, just like we were talking about where guilds,
Yeah.
you have that guild flag over your head, it means a death symbol because your guild did something bad. Well, maybe that guild is your faction. Maybe your guild can create their own faction, and NPCs can interact with you differently. Maybe you want to trade with the orcs, and you become an evil side faction. And then players who are taking down the orcs want to take you down too because you're aiding the orcs. There's so many different abilities. It's not the fact that if it's faction PvP, you're just stuck killing one kind of person. If no one goes evil, there's no other enemy. It's the fact that there's a gray area, and the choices you make in the game and the people you stick with, that's your kind of faction.
I would love to see that sort of world where your guild has a faction standing with certain factions, and so if you go
you could, yeah.
And so
Be
if
at
your
war
guild
with another
goes
guild,
and if your guild goes and kills all of the orcs over there, you become like these dwarves over here. Now they kind of trust you, but all those ogres over there are like, screw you guys, you just killed all of our friends, and have that sort of evolving world. And if it's possible, I'd love to see it because it creates a more vibrant living world, and you can have PvP in that where, it's like, hey, this guild likes the orcs and this guild likes the dwarves, but that doesn't say anything about how they feel about the elves. And that sort of living, breathing world would be the coolest to me.
Interesting. All I know is I'm going to come find each and every one of you in Landmark and stomp on your head a bunch of times, just on principle.
Bring it on!
You bring it.
Fight me, bro!
I don't know.
And so
We need to give away some
go.
things too, don't we,
Let's
guys?
go.
Real quick, can
Vlad,
what are we giving away first? We're gonna give away the Iron Portcullis first.
See, yeah, we can do that. Do Iron Portcullis first.
All right, what do you want them to type in the chat? If they
Iron
wanna win
pork
this?
chops? What?
Iron Portcullis. Type. Let's see. Type Helsing Army, because
Type Helsing Army if you guys want to win this. We will select someone at random and we will send it to you in a message, so you're not going to have to worry about typing it really fast because those drive me bonkers.
Yep.
If you win this, you win it. And I did try and bribe it from Flatus earlier because I really wanted one, but he stayed true on his word, so you can give it up to him. He's a
While you're
dependable
doing
fella.
that, Delma on EQ2 is asking a good question, though. It's a serious question, though. You have been debating if and how to implement PvP. Have you discussed at all how to reward it? And that's a very good question.
No. I think we because we're talking about PvP gear or titles or ranking or anything like that, and that's where I'm like, this is what. No, just keep away from it.
You want no rewards, no perks for PvPing. You just
Well,
want the
loot.
satisfaction of
No,
crushing someone's skull.
And as when we wrap up the show, I'll post another link of a video that I am one of the players in this World PvP video. World PvP for me is interesting enough all on its own. I will if my guild is like, hey, we're going to go into the Dark Elf City and stomp some elves, I'll be like, okay, let's go. Because for me, as long as it's with my friends and what they're doing, I'll do it.
How about the rest of you? Like, do you guys need incentives, or is it no, just crushing people's skulls, all the joy I need?
Incentives are nice, but they're not necessary.
yeah,
That's all I can really say.
I mean, what do you?
I want rewards for
Title?
avoiding PvP. How about that? Can I get rewards for avoiding PvP?
Well,
A
yeah,
chicken
it's
suit?
an
You
immersive
get
life,
a
right?
full-on chicken suit. I'd roll around in a chicken suit. That'd be hilarious.
It would be. It would be awesome. It would be awesome.
Get a title called the Coward.
I would love to see. I would love to
There
see
needs to be
someone
rewards.
who because I'm also like one of the things that I'm really interested in MMOs about is non-combat based gameplay. Like, and if you can go through the whole game like and earn all of this stuff and not do any combat, you should get a benefit or a perk or something like that. And not like make it.
I agree with you, and I know I bring it up all the time because again, it was a very unique game. But Star Wars Galaxies, there were whole classes, there were players who never touched combat in all the years of the game. Period. You could be nothing but a crafter full time and play the game that way. You could be nothing
right.
but an entertainer and play the game that way.
Yep.
I'm hoping that they do something similar in EverQuest Next, that they
Absolutely.
give crafters that ability. They,
Yeah.
that there are other things to do to occupy your time other than adventure or PvP.
Right.
I agree.
And
I think that's a way to go.
I
I think
lost.
that's a great way to go.
I lost
By the
like
way, I am
3 or
going to
4
mention
months.
Star Wars Galaxies as much as humanly possible.
You
gonna make
created
sure
a new
in chat
drinking
room-
game on our show, sir.
You can all die of alcohol poisoning before the night is over.
Oh
So
my
Star
God,
Wars
no, we
Galaxies,
need
Star
them
Wars
as viewers.
Galaxies, Star Wars Galaxies. Star
Oh my
Wars
God! Don't
Galaxies.
stop drinking, please. Here's my
Nobody's
thought
going to
on-
work tomorrow.
Here's my thought on rewards. Rewards are necessary with any kind of MMO. Whether there's
Absolutely.
a reward for not doing PvP, that's the reason we kind of keep on playing them, is the fact that we can gain things. If we didn't gain anything at all, then we wouldn't play them. I mean, let's be honest. Are you going to craft for hours on end if you don't get something from crafting? No. PvP does have a little more of an experience. You're right, because it's not one mechanic, Tamlin. And I saw your face.
I was thinking more like I will do if my friends are like, "Hey, could you craft
Sure,
me up
you'll
this
do
thing?"
it, but
I'll do it.
But you do need something. Whether it's simple loot that you gain from maybe the person, or if it's spawned.
All right,
there's
Chad,
different ways
for
to
you,
do this.
When
Listen,
we get into EQ next, I will make anything in our guild for anybody except for you. You have to pay me.
okay, deal. And I will.
Yeah,
show
this is
you
fun.
whenever I possibly can on a PvP server too.
There were
Here's the deal.
players like
Open
that, though,
world
that were...
PvP is easy to reward. Okay, listen. Especially when you're talking about building fortresses. Well, you win a battle, you're gaining resources maybe to build your defenses. That's an easy way to instantly reward it, and you're causing them to want to build more and create something new. There's also different ways to unlock new emblems or things like that.
Or there could be buffs or things
Maybe
like that would bolster
maybe.
you.
The thing about buffs is the fact that it forces you down that line. Rift had sort of their guild lines where you had to PvP to get the PvP buffs, and you had to choose between PvP and PvE buffs for your guild. So I don't really like that. I'd like to see it more appearance items or more strategy in the fact that I can build different things, not the fact that I get an inherent bonus for doing one over the other. But there's many ways to reward it. I mean, it doesn't have to be as simple as PvP gear. You know, it could be titles, it could be cool little outfits, you know, something that doesn't actually affect the game. It's there, and it can still reward a player. Achievements are an easy way to look at a system that is full of rewards, yet you really gain nothing out of it. You know?
So Delma on EQ2 follows that up by asking, do you think Joe Sixpack plays PvP for satisfaction or to chase the rewards? And I think
I don't
Joe
stereotype
Sixpack
players.
does it because it makes him feel better about himself.
It depends on the, no.
That's
See,
a tough one.
in
That's a
my-
funny statement.
it really depends on the PvP. Some like, again,
True.
there's competitors.
I'm being facetious for those who can't tell in my
Absolutely.
tone.
There's
I'm being
there's
facetious,
competitors
you know.
that love the sport and love the competition, and they want to test mano a mano or my team versus your team. Then you have the griefers that like their most fun is when they're making other people have a bad time.
And believe me, I knew some of those players, and they were shitty human beings. Pardon my French.
Right,
I'm sorry, I
and-
don't. But they were poopy human beings.
And then there are people who just like me. Like I'm just the faction based PvP. Like I love open world.
Yeah.
Like I see a gnome walking down the street and I don't like the way he looks at me. I'd go kill him or whatever. But I wouldn't call that. I mean, it's because I don't like gnomes, but I really do. It was just you know.
I know.
I will say this. Let's go back in time real quick to when MMOs
Hang on. I'm
Back to the 70s.
Everybody get their time machine. We're gonna go take a trip on the TARDIS, and we'll go back real quick and point out that
Go ahead, keep talking.
that's the greatest thing ever. I will say this: like when people PvP'd, there weren't in old school games. There weren't really rewards. You did it because you wanted to fight other people because the challenge was going up against somebody. I don't like. For me, PvP is just fun to do sometimes. Like I like more the raiding aspect of things and like grouping up with like 40 people and taking down a boss because I like the story. Mechanics and story are fun for me. If PvP for like Tobrin loves PvP because he enjoys that aspect of grouping with people and taking on and having the challenge of fighting other people. It's Mr. King PvP above me who lost his round against me. Didn't you know? He does it for the fun of the game, not for the fun of I won this mount. I mean, the mount's a perk. It's not his objective.
Yeah.
It's just like with raiding. You don't like. I know some people raid for the gear, but there's other people out there that just raid because they like raiding and it's fun.
Because it's fun, the group experience. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
So
I don't know. I don't think we've come to any sort of major determination or agreement on what we all think the value of PvP
Welcome to
is.
the EverCast show.
Done.
Exactly.
No, it's the same
I'm all
as
for that.
PvE players.
Is the widest options possible, the most robust features possible. Give a little bit of everything to everybody, and we'll all get along just peachy.
Same time, don't water down your game by doing so.
True.
That's a good point. But I don't know. PvP for me, super simple. Sometimes I'm pissed off at night and I want to kick ass. Sure,
Yeah,
I'll go in and kick some
absolutely.
ass. I'll be happy as hell and do so. And, I'll taunt them as hell in chat. I'll be like, oh, noob, shut the fuck up. Like, it doesn't matter. But then at the same time, I will sometimes PvP for strategy. I will go into PlanetSide 2 in my outfit. We will lead 100-person op nights and we'll be very strategic. It's not about the individual kill. It's about just doing something as a group. It's the same as PvE. You can go into a raid as a group and try and take down something for strategy, or you can be the kind of guild that just rushes progression to get that kill and taunt it to everybody else. I don't think you can stereotype either side. But anyways, Tamlin, you wanted to say something before I interrupted, right?
No, well, I just want to say I love watching competition as a spectator. And if you follow me on Twitter, I tweet about the World Cup, about football, about esports. Because those are people, like, when you watch at the highest level, they do things that you just don't think are possible, and I love watching that. So, I mean, like, just because I say, like, I don't think that EQ Next should have instant PvP, don't get me wrong. I will watch the hell out of it when it's in the game.
Yep.
I'm just throwing out my opinion that, like, if it's not in the game, I won't miss it. Won't miss it at all. Gotcha.
Yeah, no, like I said, just to wrap it up, I'm sure there'll be a little bit of everything for everybody. Like I said, there's part of the player base they're going to have to make sure they serve, that needs that arranged event to happen within a certain time frame. Otherwise, they're not going to get a chance to play that type of game, Yep.
Yeah, but in summary, you're right. We talked about Landmark. We talked about the problems that might be to come for Landmark in terms of PvP, but also the fact that we're all extremely excited to see what the hell it's going to be and what kind of interactions we'll have, because EQ Next might have very similar combat mechanics in terms of the actual ability doing something. You'll gain it a different way. Yeah, it will affect things differently. But at the same time, targeting mechanics, things like that, they might be very similar come EQ Next. We don't know, but it is our first glimpse at the combat in this new realm of sort of Norath and building it ourselves. We have one more beta key to give away while you guys continue talking.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that I think what will be interesting though, and I am looking forward to seeing how this shapes up, is that in Landmark, the PvP is gonna be far more creative than I think we've ever seen in any I've witnessed in any sort of MMO. So I'm very curious to see how it shakes out. That's for sure.
Yeah, and Legendary said the same thing. He's looking at how people are making their builds, how they're using it, and just seeing the creativity explode, just like everything else in Landmark. It's all about creativity. But Flatus, before you say that, Tenlin, who won the Iron Portcullis?
The winner of the Iron Portcullis. Hold on, I had it.
Oh my gosh.
I know.
Supposed to announce these things so they can get,
everybody was so deep in conversation. The winner of the Iron Portcullis is Paputza. Paputz. If I murdered your name, it's Paputza.
Congratulations.
Yeah, congrats.
And then we need to do one more giveaway while we do our kind of closing thoughts over this next minute overtime, because we still have the key to give away, right, Flatus?
Yeah, we have a full. This is a full beta
access
key. It's not 7-day. It's full access. Beta key for Landmark. So if you have not gotten into Landmark, or you have a friend that wants to get into Landmark, and you give out your beta keys, or you just don't have any beta keys, this is your chance to get into Landmark. So if you have not played that is,
Chandler's being attacked by his dogs.
He is.
Oh, Bubba.
So,
love attack.
So, rigged? No, that wasn't rigged. Go ahead and go ahead and type 1v1. Yes. 1v1 is the word to win the Landmark beta key.
All right, and let's see who wins that. But I don't know. PvP is something that I'm very excited for. Probably not just because it's PvP, but because it's combat. They might sneak in that first little chomp because it doesn't require pathing and stuff, so we might see more than just PvP at the start. But from what we've kind of seen, it's going to be PvP. That's the first kind of interaction we have. That's not building or crafting. And I just can't wait to see it because I'm.
Evidently he's pulling a Tanlin. That's so awesome that I'm not the only person doing it.
Let's give out the beta key, and everybody's in. So
Okay. That was weird, right? Did you switch the audio over to Skype yet? Can you hear us again?
No Star Wars Galaxies.
I did switch it over to Skype. It looks like the
they're
team
talking.
speaks.
Yeah, TeamSpeak died. Like our TeamSpeak server died, and that's what we use to host our audio. So that I was just saying.
All right,
One
and the winner is I can never say her name. I'm so sorry,
Yeah.
but Innie, you win. You win.
She's been such a long
You win
time dead. That's awesome.
Oh, that's a good question.
Someone
find out.
PvP'd our Skype or
Can
our
you guys hear me
TeamSpeak
yet?
server. I can hear you now.
Yeah,
Let me know,
we're
chat.
all back. We're all back.
All right, you guys can
One sentence summary. What I was saying is the biggest thing I'm looking forward to when it comes to PvP is the fact that it's going to be combat.
Yep.
It's the first.
I don't think they
instance
realize they're
combat
not in
open
chat. So I'm gonna go. All right, Paputza, I emailed you. I sent you the code to your Twitch inbox. Innie, I'm sending you the code in your inbox as well. Well, I'm sure we'll have another PvP conversation. Adam and Tobin, you're welcome to come back on for that. And please, by all means, go help me out. I have yet to find a job, so go like my YouTube channel. I monetize my videos, so if I make 10 cents, that's 10 cents you've helped me make. So.
And also, as
Hey,
always,
do you
follow
mind if
us on Twitter.
I would like to mention
I am shameless.
I too have a YouTube channel.
Yeah,
throw it out there.
Send us the link so we can put you.
I usually put a video up every week. There's gonna be more video game content coming starting this week, but it's a lot of general geek stuff. So I would appreciate you at least hitting the sub button on that, and maybe you'll be slightly entertained by what I'm doing over there.
Yep. And as for Tobin, please go and tell people where they can find you and what you do.
You can find me everywhere. Find me on Twitter at Tobin Erwin. Find me on Twitch. Just twitch.tv/Tobin Erwin. Find me on YouTube. I do a video series. I'm kind of on hiatus at the moment, but I'm coming back this week to do a lot more stuff, so go check that out. Yeah, that's me.
And he loves food.
All right, guys. Thank you. Thank you both for being on the show and
thank you
talking
for having
PvP. We of course will probably talk more PvP probably after SOE Live. So of course you're both welcome back to discuss that on the show again with us. Like I said, you'll find me and Tobin doing more PvP videos on my channel. We'll take suggestions for games and we'll play them.
I almost forgot. By the way, I forgot. I'm also I'm Legendary Neurotox's regular co-host now on Live Feature.
Nice!
Oh, congratulations!
Awesome.
Yeah, we do that. So for those who don't know, it's basically community roundtable after Landmark Live. So come check it out after Landmark Live on Wednesdays. So thank you guys.
Very cool.
Oh, absolutely.
And if you haven't seen that, I have been on. Chewy has been on, and Tamlin has been on. So it's very cool. Legendary Neurotoxin does a great job. So thank you guys for showing up for this, our 23rd episode of EverCast. Can't we all just PvP? We will see you all. And Tobin or Adam, would one of you like to camp us out?
They should fight.
I'll do it. All right.
All right.
My moment in life has come. Okay.
All right.
Camping in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Bye, guys.
Adios.